going to be developed in 2 phases by the developer. It's about $120 million worth of improvements that are going to be done, public improvements in the nature of stormwater management, sewer, water, mitigation, wetland preservation, and things like that. $4 million of that is in wetland mitigation and preservation. As your manager said, it's a local unit of special purpose government. There will be 2 hearings, be advertised 4 times for the public to have an opportunity to come speak with you, talk about the project. I can't necessarily speak about the impact outside the district of what would happen. I know our previous speaker talked a little bit about that, and as you're developing the project, my experience has been that the entryways and the areas around it are also improved to help sell the project and bring the development up and come to fruition. So I don't think there'll be any problem outside the development, but I can't really comment to that. But I can tell you that the development itself will be a wonderful program and really top-notch product. The money that's raised by the issuance of the public securities, because we do tap the municipal bond market in order to get a portion of the funds necessary to build the development. All that money is held by a trustee, probably U.S. Bank or Regions Bank. One of the large banks is going to hold that money. That money is only requisitioned out by our professional engineer and by our professional manager. Unlike an HOA, these are professional managers. They're audited. They're local units of government, so all their operations are in the sunshine. There's nothing done behind closed doors. We do public audits every year. All of our information is on public websites. All that information is ADA accessible. It's just like a regular unit of government, except for it does not have those traditional police powers of zoning, building, and the powers that you enjoy as a local government that we wouldn't have. It would just be for the infrastructure, financing, and the long-term management of the public infrastructure.
Why did y'all switch to CDD after the agreement, the development agreement was put in place?
Why is it?
Where's the CDD coming from? Why now instead of at the beginning?
Generally, it's usually done based on a feasibility study to see whether the properties are going to be able to take the amount of debt and what the level of service will be for the community. I think there's high hopes that this will be a premier community, and another one of my clients' hundreds of projects that they've done. They do top scale work, so that's the reason probably.
And the initial board is made up of the owners of the site, right?
It is. It's made up of the developers' representatives. Within 90 days, we'll have an election. The members will then be elected by the landowners within the district. I did under 4 minutes, so I can keep it brief. We skipped the PowerPoint presentation. I can answer any other questions you have.
I had a question on ongoing maintenance.
Yes.
So obviously you guys will be taking out a bond to fulfill these infrastructure improvements as it goes. How does that look? Is the CDD responsible for maintaining roads, water, sewer lines? How is that structured in the agreement?
To the extent that those public improvements are not turned over to the city, we would take long-term maintenance of that. We covenant under our trust indenture that we would do that at least for our 30 years. It's maintained in perpetuity. We do our budgets every year to make sure that we have our maintenance dollars in place. Our public engineer, our professional engineer, does a study each year and tells us what needs to be done and what reserves we need to have. And we take care of the long-term maintenance of all of the improvements that are maintained and kept by the CDD.
I think if I recall in the agreement, you guys are asking for water, sewer to transfer to the city, but not roads.
That's correct. When we did the modification to the petition, we did one change. The roadways will be owned and maintained by the district.
They did that at Wild Heron. You turned the water over to the beach, and they kept everything else. So it's kind of the same model.
Correct. Surface water management permit will be in the district's name and be a long-term maintenance project for the district.
What does that do to we were supposed to build something? Then we were going to do the wastewater treatment. Does that still keep us in?
That was a part of the agreement, not the CDD.
For the property.
Yeah.
Right. The CDD won't be doing the sewer.
Yeah, so what they're looking to do is they're looking to develop the property, but also as part of the agreement to do the wastewater treatment in there as well, but the CDD won't necessarily be a part of any of that.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I don't know that we would want it to.
Who would want to own
It would,
that?
it would, that would get kind of messy. I don't think they want to do it. I don't think we want them to do it. Yeah.
We would not want to do it, but we could, under the statute, it does allow us.
Yeah, CDDs legally can do things like that if we allow them to, but again.
Is
get
it
kinda
working
messy.
well in your neighborhood now that you've got them?
Yeah, I mean, it's, so by law, CDDs have to be owned by the landowners.
Right.
So imagine that you'll handle it like most other CDDs where you'll, the developer will basically be the board. They'll have 5 individuals that they'll have on the board. And then as you sell properties, you hit a certain cliff point and you have to kind of start letting those folks off the board and let the new landowners on the board. Yeah.
Good idea.
If there's no other questions, I'd ask that you approve this on first reading and allow us to move the second reading.
We don't approve the first reading.
No. Mr. Zimmerman will do his thing, and we'll be back in 2 weeks.
Yes, sir,
for your
Thank you
work
very
and
much for your time. I
investment in
appreciate
Panama City.
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Zimmerman.
Okay, I'd like to read the title to ordinance 3305, an ordinance of the Board of City Commissioners of Panama City, Florida, establishing Panama City North Community Development District pursuant to Chapter 19 Florida statutes, providing a title, providing findings, creating and naming the district, describing the external boundaries of the district, describing the functions and special powers of the district, designating 5 to serve as the initial members of the district's Board of Supervisors, providing for severability for conflicts of law, codification, inclusion in code, scrivener's error, and providing effective date.
We are in audience participation. If you'd like to speak about items related to the agenda, please come forward. You have 3 minutes. Let us know your name and address for the record, and let us know what agenda item you're speaking on today. Yes, ma'am. Come on down. Good evening.
We can barely hear you.
Okay.
That's probably for the
You can be
best.
face to face with him and barely hear him.
Excuse me?
We're having some audio issues, it sounds
Yeah,
like.
I can barely hear you back there. Brenda Lewis Williams, 2748 Oak Hammock Drive, PC 32401. I've already expressed some of my thoughts today, but mine are on under City Manager 11A and 11B. I've addressed change orders before. This truly gives me heartburn, a change order for $1 million plus. And I don't quite understand why they do this. I understand how contracting works, and this is not working like contracting works, bottom line. So we need to address that. If you want to see what else I had to say, go online and look at my Toodle Doodle. It'll tell you. 11B is the same thing. It just seems to me that this is not the way to get rid of these properties. Advertise for citizens to purchase them. And I'm going to give you a biblical reference, which I did on my Toodle Doodle, which is Ananias and Sapphira. Be very careful. Be very careful. God doesn't like this type of stuff. And there you are. I'd like to give Clint and Alan Forbes kudos for taking care. Was it 9th in Louisiana? 9th in Louisiana. It was getting ready to cave in, and I was going to put some guppies there if they didn't fix it quickly. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Anyone else want to speak about items related to today's agenda? Yes, sir. Come on down. Or over. Feels like my audio is very loud.
You need to get closer to the mic.
Good evening.
Mine's good. Wow.
Yes, sir.
We are Walter P. Henry, 614 Maple Avenue. We got the Martin Theater, 11A. All these change orders on it. I mean, this thing been repaired, worked on probably two or three times. Last time it was worked on, they said it didn't need a roof. Then they found out it did need a roof. Then they did a change order to fix that roof. For Michael. Oh, you tell me some way that I meant something was not brand new roof. I know the storm can do anything, but it much like the Martin Theater, so it hit the Martin Theater. I know change orders is something that I don't think somebody's not doing pretty well their job that they're supposed to be doing when these things are put out for bids, and then you're not listening to somebody, whoever y'all got there else to look at it inside the city. It's missing something. When a person gets change orders, they got you, really, they got the job, they got you in their hands, because they know that you're not able to to get this project or whatever they're doing to somebody else. They go kill it. They go kill whatever you're doing. Everybody need to know that. They go kill it. You ain't gonna let nobody else. That person was doing the job. He ain't gonna let nobody else take no part in that change order. That's why these change orders is so high. Because I had many that I did when I worked for the city. I looked at the map orders that they put in, and I looked at it and told them where some problem was. Nobody listened. End up with change orders. Change orders kills you. Change orders will break you, just like this one here.
Yes, sir, thank you. Anyone else want to speak today about the agenda items? Yes, sir. Good morning.
Derek Thomas, 1100 West 10th Street. I guess I should have stayed a little longer on that 3 minutes. On the previous one, if you look at the map, what you can see is green area, because it's a drainage area for that neighborhood, that part of the city. It is a drainage area. You can put 1,800 houses into what used to be a natural drainage area. You're creating problems. Okay. 8B, it apparently is added up to $3,457,000 to $1,923,000. Okay, that's a lot of money. You don't really say that up front on that one. And when it comes to the Martin Theater, you started out with $32,985,000, and now, if I'm reading this correctly, you're up to $35,924,000 for a theater. And if I remember it correctly, you're charging $50 a seat for that theater, to go to that theater and sit in that chair, which if you're over 5 foot tall, is going to be uncomfortable because of the elevation of the way that's laid out. That's a lot of money to be spending on a theater. I like the theater. I think it's great, but $35,924,000, including all the money for the parks and an entire marina, $15 million for a marina that was diverted to that theater. Is that open space, that ballroom part of the theater, going to be open to the public? What is the price for the seat in that theater, and how much does it cost to rent the space in the theater that has cost us already close to $36 million? Is it ever going to be worth it for the people that live here? Are the people that live here going to appreciate it as much as they would parks, as much as they would a marina? That's what you've given up for this. And it went from 32, well, close to 33 million, up to 36 million. And we're just getting started. It ain't even finished yet. How much is it going to cost the people that live here to go to that thing Is it going to be open to the public? Is it going to bring in as much to the city as a marina would or the parks would? Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else want to speak today related to the agenda items? Please come forward. Seeing none, I'm closing public comments, and we are moving on to the new 7, which is Brian Granger talking about the clerk.
All right, so we were given 60 applications for our clerk position. I believe all of you should have all 60 copies if you want them. That's a lot of folks, and so what I was looking to do is just have a quick discussion on how do we want to move forward as a commission in dwindling that number down. I recommend, and Vicki, by the way, sent us an email. Our HR director sent us an email through Jonathan with some very, very good recommendations. And I don't know if y'all have seen that yet or not, but I would just say, I'm not asking for a vote, but I would like for us to kind of just decide what it is that we're gonna do, and then come back in either the next meeting or the meeting after to kind of move this along a little bit faster. I'm pretty sure that our temporary clerk would appreciate that. And I'm getting nothing. She's but I do think to get back to normalcy, I think we need to move this process along. Not necessarily expedite it, but just move it along, which as slow as the city moves, it feels like expediting. I would suggest that we do, we pick the top 5, and that after you've looked through all of your 60 applicants, that we choose our top 5, and then we all bring back our top 5, or we can report all of our top 5 to Brandy. And then I do like the option in here to pick one and say, this is kind of the one that I'd like to see move forward above all else. And if we all come back together, and if certain people get so many are on the list, so to speak, then that makes the top 5. And if one of your people doesn't make it, then your one that you favor makes it, if that makes sense.
The option 3?
Yeah, option
Option
3.
3?
I'm kind of explaining it
Kind of
because I don't
one
know
input,
if everybody's seen that email yet. So
Is the 62 applicants, was that narrowed down from a bigger list, or was that just everything that came through?
That's all applications we received.
Should there be a narrowing process that staff doesn't give us everybody
But
that?
we asked for that.
we asked for that.
Yeah.
We offered and y'all said,
Okay.
give them all.
All right.
With each applicant is a cover sheet that Vicki did that with the requirements that were in the job description, whether they met, did not meet, or exceeded expectations.
So there's quite a few applicants that have, I've kind of parsed through quite a bit of them. There's quite a few applicants that have little to no experience in this area.
0.
I went through the applications. The 6233 had either 1, which would be the minimum of a driver's license, or 2. And there were 29 others that were in the running. And from that, I was able to carve it down to about 9 that I thought, based on the scoring sheet, 5 or 6. None of them had all 7 of the minimum, including the preferential qualifications that we asked for.
I was concerned that there wasn't a CPA, but then I asked around, and they're like, yeah, you don't really need that. It's the certified government financing is what I should be looking for. Okay, there's some of that, but to Commissioner Lucas's point, there's a lot of people that have 0 qualification other than a driver's license.
I would also add in that a CPA test is a very, very difficult test, and because it is a very, very difficult test, they likely would be employed elsewhere.
Yeah, I don't think they'll have any issue getting down to 5, and I think if we're all afforded the opportunity to put 1 in, if it just so happens that one of us doesn't see, the same in that, I think that'll probably narrow the list down to probably 8 or 9, and then we can start culling through from that point. So I'm fine with option 3.
So if somebody ended up on your list, Brian's list, and my list,
They're going to
it's
move
saying it
forward.
automatically goes to the interview
They're going to move
process,
forward,
right?
yeah.
Okay.
Option 3 still gives us a choice
Yeah.
between option 1 and option 2.
Yeah.
So it's, which of those?
Well, I would say option 1 and option 3. That's what I would suggest. I'm not a huge fan of ranked award points.
Well, if you rank them, you're already communicating kind of who your favorite is.
Understood.
And that,
Well,
The
that's
point system,
gonna happen. It's part of the process.
I'm not a fan of the point system, if that makes sense. So,
yeah, I'm fine if two people agree, move them forward. I mean, there's 60-something applicants. If we can get down to 9, 10, from around, I think that's a pretty good first round consolidation. And maybe the next round after that is virtual interviews before we bring, a narrowed candidate down from there.
yeah, I just want to move us one step in this direction. We don't have to make the entire sausage. I would just want to get past the selection process for interviews.
Option 1 plus option 3, I'm good with that one.
Okay, is everybody else good with that?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
Like option 1, there's a A and B under 1, so you,
A,
okay.
the 2, yeah.
Is that a motion?
Was anybody else overwhelmed by the job description list of what? In
So,
each of those categories?
I would say, I think here's one of the unique things about a city treasurer that just to look from, yes, there's a CPA aspect, and some city treasurers have CPAs, some people don't.
Right.
Or you look at it from the CFO perspective, which is someone that's, your financial, guide, so to speak, through keeping your city solvent. And so CPA, we hire a CPA every single year. So. We have independently audited financials done by a CPA firm. I think we have a CPA in the office that exists, so I don't necessarily think that's an absolute qualification that has to be.
Right.
I mean, great if they do, but not required if they don't.
Actually, I prefer option 1 to do the B, that 3 of us appears on 3 of the lists, moves forward.
You need like a motion or, yeah?
I think that'd be appropriate,
Okay.
just
you
to
want-
memorialize
I'll
it
entertain a
formally.
motion. Who wants to give me one?
Move that the selection process for interviews be option 1B with option 3.
Okay,
I'll second that.
any discussion? Please call the roll.
Commissioner Lucas,
Yes.
Commissioner Granger,
Yes.
Commissioner Street,
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes,
Yes.
Mayor Branch.
Yes,
Motion passes 5-0.
All right, thank you.
now we are in the consent agenda.
Do you want to put a date on when you should get those in, or are you turning them into me?
I think 2-3 years from now would be appropriate.
We should have a report.
So eager.
How about this? How about we should have a report from the clerk's office on who all has not given in their,
You're the guy that's always late.
yeah. How does that sound? You just report to us every meeting who has not turned in their stuff.
A week.
I would suggest that we maybe plan to bring back the results at the second meeting in June. I think June 9th is probably a little aggressive.
Yeah,
The
agreed.
deadline is going to be next Monday, close of business for the agenda. I don't think you guys want to make
No,
those
no,
choices
I
this
think-
week. So I would say we'll bring it back on
June
the
23rd.
June
What
23rd.
Due back June 23rd. The agenda item would be due June 15th.
2026.
We could also move it to the first meeting in July.
Have we closed the
No, ma'am.
applications? So
No, ma'am.
that they're going to continue?
It's still open, and none came in over the weekend, so what you have, unless they came in today, is the most current, and then by the end of each week, if we receive any new ones, we'll make sure to get them all to you.
When are we going to close those?
As I say, unless you all want us to go and
Unless you
close
want
it.
us to close it.
I'd let it stay open until maybe a week before we have our stuff that's due, whatever, or 2 weeks before, whatever you guys
Yeah, but
think.
those people wouldn't,
Purpose for
I
that?
guess they would.
All right, so
No, I
June
just
8th.
wanna make
We'll
sure
close
that-
it June 8th.
we get all the applicants we could.
Sounds good. Do you want a motion
Then
on that?
why close it?
I was just thinking that if somebody came in, that's true. I mean,
Why
why
close
close it? Yeah.
Don't
Yeah,
close it?
Yeah, just don't close it. That's fine.
No, I think we should close it, is my my point.
Well, you just argued yourself in the opposite
No,
direction.
I
so-
didn't. I
so
said
it's
if you want to get all the applicants you can, why close it?
Yeah, because if I send in my homework tomorrow, then someone else comes in, I'm like,
Yeah, so we do need to have a date, but
Close
I
it a
do
week.
get concerned about closing it immediately. I haven't gotten a chance to look through these 60 applicants. If I look through and I'm like, I don't know if I can get 5 out of these, then like that would be, I would hate that somebody else didn't get to submit.
can we
during
wait
that
2
time.
weeks to close it?
Sure,
To the next
yeah,
meeting?
just pick a date.
I would say a week.
Can I meet you at 4 days?
How about 3.5?
How about we
Doesn't
close it
matter.
after the next meeting?
All right,
How
there we
about
go. We'll keep
Yeah,
it
let's
canceled.
just leave it at that.
Ninth?
And I want to publicly
All
thank Vicki for expending these hours. Your eyes had to hurt, your brain had to hurt, and putting all this together for us to confuse us even more. I appreciate that. Yeah.
And Vicki, if you're interested in applying, we'd be happy to receive your application as well for city clerk. 2 weeks.
So when staff does multiple roles. Okay, so we're moving on to consent agenda, items 8A, 8B, 8C. Do I have a motion to accept?
Yeah, motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Commissioner Granger? Yes. Commissioner Street?
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes?
Yes, ma'am.
Mayor Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. I have 9A. It's a proposed resolution on policy on appointments to boards or committees. Inevitably, you may end up discussing the Port Authority, because I know it'll be tied together at some point. But for now, the discussion in front of you is this resolution. This resolution creates a policy on appointments to boards and committees. It states that each commissioner and mayor can appoint 1 member to each board or committee that has 5 members. So it's 5 members on a particular committee. And that committee or board does not already have an appointment method provided for by ordinance or by statute or by a special act. Our chart, and we've identified 21 different boards or committees, some of which are not currently filled, and some of which the appointments are controlled by ordinance or statute. We think the resolution would be applicable to approximately 10 boards, and there's a table that's attached, and I believe, was it updated since, I think there's maybe one change that's. Okay, so the only change to this table was a note of whether it was active or inactive, but the table is correct. It's a summary. We've highlighted the boards which this resolution would be applicable to. So we believe that the resolution captures what was discussed at the last meeting. This would apply to the Port Authority appointment that would be coming up later in this meeting. It would apply to the Housing Authority. No, it does not apply to the Housing Authority. But there's a question that maybe it's on that. But there is, it does not apply to the Airport Authority, and it doesn't apply to one other board, which right now I forget. Oh, so that's what we have here. That calls for appointments. So if the mayor makes an appointment and the term is for 4 years, then in 4 years, the mayor would make another appointment. And the same with each commissioner. So the term doesn't end when the commissioner or mayor who makes the appointment, their term ends. Their term ends, the person appointed, they serve for the entire 4 years. And then when the time comes, they'll be reappointed by whoever is in that seat. And that appointment is confirmed by the city commission. So, for example, pick on the mayor. He has a 2-year term. This appointment is for 4 years. Presumably, he'd still be here 4 years from now to make that appointment. But if he's not, then whoever is the mayor would make the appointment, and all appointments are subject to a majority approval by the city commission. So it's not just unilateral. So I think the process would be, a commissioner would say, I appoint X, and then the mayor would say, is there a motion to affirm that appointment? And then either the motion is made, or the motion's not made, or if the motion is made and seconded, then it either passes 3-2 or it doesn't. But that's the process, I believe. So we're open for any questions you may have, and I know that there'll probably be some discussion.
So it's not like the planning board where it runs with the commissioner?
Correct.
Well, this would change the way that the planning board would be
Well, the
appointed.
planning board, it doesn't affect the planning board because the ordinance that we adopted for the planning board controls that. This is, but the appointments by the planning board are the same. There's an appointment
Okay.
by each ward, but as far as the way it lines up, it's a little different.
Was that your goal, Brian, was to get it like the planning board? Where it's each,
My goal is this resolution. The planning board is just kind of a
setup, I mean.
setup was not necessarily for all of the appointments to be in line with our timeline. It was just more of when these positions come up, that there is a commissioner award that is or the mayor associated with it.
And that's what
Yeah.
happens on the planning board, so that's why he was asking.
Understood, but the planning board goes a little bit further in that it is tied to our terms. And I didn't want that. I was trying not to.
Anytime somebody new comes in, they can appoint a new.
Correct,
Okay.
yeah. I didn't necessarily want to go down that road. That was a bit too far in my opinion, but, I mean, I'll motion that we approve this.
Well, can I, real quick before we do that? I like your idea, I do, but I like it for our city boards. And the port, the airport, and the DIB are all special act boards. But airport and the port are working boards that require, in my opinion, an extra set of skill set, knowledge that affects the whole county. To the extent the airport actually has somebody on Walton County as their board member, okay? I just think that right now, they need continuity out there and knowing what that board looks like. They work together, engineers, accountants, things like that. I would respectfully request that we pull this out, just the port, out of this resolution, and leave all the other boards that we're talking about there, because I think there might be some unintended consequences that we're not thinking about, and it's always worked, and it helps the whole county. This isn't a city thing, this is a county thing, but we have the vote on it. Just to get your thoughts, y'all's thoughts on that.
I guess I don't understand where the danger is. If this board appoints people to that board already and appoints all 5 members to that board already, what danger do you see by which this board continues to appoint all 5 members to that
Because
board?
right now, the chairman of that board doesn't live in Panama City, and you don't have to.
You wouldn't have to under this resolution
But
either.
commissioners are going to more than likely try to pull somebody from their ward,
Maybe.
but that's available to them, where today it is, but most likely they're going to go look for the most qualified person, not necessarily from their ward.
So that's the check. The balance is that the rest of the commission has to agree.
Right, but we're dealing with, they have their own budget, their own manager, they are autonomous from us. And I don't know that we need to step in, particularly right now before we're getting ready to make appointments. I don't know that we need to step in and change something that has that much of an impact across the county.
Yeah, I don't think we're fundamentally changing anything about the board.
Yes, sir.
I think, to me, it's the same, because it's not like one of us just say, that person's on the board, we still have to agree. It's just one of us gets the opportunity to be elected and then say, this is the person I'd like to represent.
Why is that important on that board when it's all about the county and not Panama City? It's not just about Panama City. Is it because we have the opportunity to do that?
No, I think if you're choosing only from Panama City residents, that's short-sighted in general, and that's probably a bad idea. And I think you could say that too. I think you could say, like, let's say Brian said, crazy Uncle Bobby wanted to be it, and he lives next door, and we could say, Brian, here's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for someone who has great accounting skills and business development, and have you looked outside of Panama? We have an opportunity to question his nomination. It's not like he gets an automatic in, and we
You
can
still
always,
do anyway,
yeah.
right? the way
Yeah,
it is
I
now.
guess so much of this job, you're trying to voice your opinion of how you got elected for a reason. And so this is just a further example, further way that you can speak into this position by finding your choice versus us saying, you never get the opportunity to find a person that you want to put on there, you know?
I don't know that this is a board that is not it's not a resume pad building board.
Yeah.
This is a very much specific skill set board, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I'm concerned that if it's not this commission, 2 commissions down, these 2 seats change, and you got, you don't have the right people. Granted, you get to vote on it like we do today. I just don't see the need for something that is working so well right now we didn't create that board. All the others affect Panama City only. That's where I'd like to spend that, let that be that resolution.
Well, I think I'm fine with two, I think the airport board's a great example of that board approached us saying, here's what we're looking for in our next person that we want on that board. Here's the gap, here's the skill set. And so I think that's a part of the process is that board speaking to us saying, here's the gap, we're losing this person, and we need this seat filled with this certain. And they should be bringing us their applicants, really is how that should be working. To me, a great, healthy board is one that says, gosh, this person's rolling off, and we want to find someone with a similar skill set. Here's some people that we believe can fill this seat. We can find our own individual person too, but then that board has one person, one point of contact to go to say, here's the options that we would like to see on this board.
That
Versus
intent
versus
sounds
then
good.
all of them coming to us and us trying to figure out how do we nominate a person. To me, the nomination gets messier when we're all trying to nominate, and then we all vote at the same. It's like a double voting kind of thing. Like
Yeah,
Well, I
basically
don't
whoever
know
gets
that
to
that's been
speak first.
the challenge or a problem, particularly where the port is concerned. And I would see approving your resolution, Commissioner Granger, with the exception of the port. It is a special act, as is the airport board. And in my discussions that I've had in preparing for this discussion, as well as the one that will come later about the Port Authority, I do believe that there is more discussion, communication, interaction that can be had with the Port Authority. But I do think that the Port Authority is in a very, very good place right now. And there's nothing to be fixed about where it is now. I know there is some concern about the future and making sure that we have the communication and the situation that you just described, Mayor, where the Port Authority does say, hey, this is what we need on our board now. And I think that we can achieve that in other ways other than what is being proposed here.
None of the concerns that y'all have brought up would be changed by moving forward with this resolution.
Sir?
None of the concerns that you brought up would be changed by passing this resolution.
So what is changing?
The standardization of all the boards that we appoint to.
Just remove the port and let all the others stay in, is what we're saying, and what I'm saying, because the port needs to be autonomous. It affects everybody. Why aren't we messing with the airport board? Or,
Two people.
oh,
It's the same thing for the housing board.
Right.
We only appoint 2 people. There's no way to mathematically make that work with what I'm trying to do.
has anybody talked with the board members out there or the new
Yeah.
port director?
Yeah.
Yes, I have.
Okay.
I like standardization across all the things that we do as much as possible.
Processes are definitely good, I agree with you. But this isn't a forever thing. Right now, we're also about to make appointments to the Port Authority, and we're gonna try to make a change of how we do it right before, I don't know that that's really the best route to go on the next, and then our next move is to make appointments. That, to me, that's a whole, I use the word janky, I don't, just, it doesn't make me feel good.
That's an old word.
That's an old word,
In
yeah.
other words, I would suggest that the reason why this is here is because we are going to be doing
I'm aware of that.
And if we're
yeah.
changing how we do that, then it is fair to everyone to make the decision now versus make appointments and then change how we do it.
So, I think everybody makes valid points. I mean, to the point of if someone nominated, everyone still has to confirm. There's protections from that mechanism. I expressed early on in this process my concerns with specifically the port. And it's not just, on one aspect, it's granular on paper. There's another aspect that they're going through a tremendous amount of changes in a very short period of time right now currently. And so it's for that reason, I could totally support 100% everything that's on here. The port one is the one that I'm most hesitant.
what?
The port one is the one I'm most hesitant.
Why? Why are you hesitant? I guess is the...
Only from the perspective of just it's also a confidence issue, and what I got in my feedback from speaking with the board members is they feel like, and this is just me paraphrasing, that this could create some unnecessary disruption. And I don't necessarily think it's attached to any names in this thing. I would imagine we'll probably have a pretty strong consensus on who should be our next appointees to the board, regardless of how this passes. I think the only difference is who is making that appointment versus are we doing it like as a group? Are we doing that individually and then confirming who that person is? And so I can see both sides, and as time has gone on, I've seen the aspect of standardization as being helpful. It was definitely helpful in the planning board structure. That is a granularly localized effort, and so I do think it's very important for us to have representation that lives in proximity to the people that they're making decisions that are affecting them on. But the port is a business, and it just happens to be a business that we approve their budget, which is a rather unique situation, but that's why I'm hesitant on making those changes. So.
Your point, Commissioner Street, as I spoke with Port Authority individuals, it was made clear to me that our port is a niche port, and it has been operating very well with the relationships and the unintended consequences. We don't want to send a message that we think there is something different going to be happening, that our vendors and businesses who do business at the port, begin to wonder, well, just what's going on there. And so I share that concern, and as I said, I would like us to pull the Port Authority and move forward with the rest of the boards that you've presented, Commissioner Granger.
So
Made a motion to
They didn't have
approve.
a
We don't have a vote, yeah.
The motion to
I
approve,
mean, I'm
so that's right.
one of the situations that we're in now, as I hear y'all talk about, you want to have stability, is what I'm hearing, is that anytime somebody comes up for reappointment, if one of us says no, they're out.
That's only if you've been there 2 terms.
2 terms.
Right.
Okay, that won't change.
Can change.
Well, it can,
Yeah.
yeah.
But not under this proposal
Not-
we have in front of us.
That's what I was aiming for, but I don't know. I guess we would have to repeal whatever thing we had before, and then it would fall underneath this.
What about waiting a year to discuss the port, pulling this off now and then discussing it again in a year? More appointments coming up.
I'd like that idea from the standpoint of the only reason why I think this has created so much unparalleled tension is because we have a new port director and we have 2 board, this is the widest version of appointees that we have, in having two appointees up at the same time. So I think that was really the feedback that I got from just the individuals I spoke with. I do want to say, though, I think that there was definitely a received message of there needs to be further collaboration between us and that board. And so specifically as moving forward of how we move forward together in things, that it doesn't feel like it's isolated. Although it is a niche port, we don't want it to feel like it's on an island to itself. And so there needs to be stronger collaboration. That was expressed by every member that I
Pretty
spoke
aggressively,
with.
actually.
Yes, and so I think that moving forward, I think maybe some of the issues that we've had previously, I don't think those will continue, as far as from the standpoint of having collaboration and engagement on all five of us on this board. So if that makes sense.
All right, I'll modify my motion to remove the port.
Do I have a second?
What was the motion?
I'll second.
In its
Adopt-
entirety?
To adopt the resolution.
And I would
section
add
of the port.
to revisit this in 1 year from now.
So you restated the motion you had earlier, which was to approve this in its entirety.
Let me rescind all motions and restate the motion. Motion is to approve this with the exception of the port and to revisit the port 1 year from today, or the next, whatever meeting
the
that
next
falls in at, yeah.
Okay.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Commissioner Street?
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes?
Yes.
Mayor Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, we have Resolution 20-260526.1, a resolution of the City Commission of Panama City creating a policy of how members are appointed on various boards and committees when the appointment method is not specified by ordinance, statute, or a special act, providing that all resolutions in conflict be repealed, providing for an immediately effective date. It will state in the body of the resolution that except for the Port Authority.
Item 10A.
All right, item 10A is notice of vacancy on the Panama City-Bay County Airport Authority Board. The Panama City-Bay County Airport Authority Board has one position for a 4-year term that expires on June 25th, 2030. The city clerk's office has received one application from Mr. Ben Lee, which is attached.
Motion we approve, Ben Lee?
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion.
Thank you for applying.
Thank you for your willingness to serve, sir.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Commissioner Street?
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes?
Yes.
Mayor Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Okay, item,
Speech, Ben, since you're here. Are you good? Okay, all right.
Fix the audio online so
Yeah.
they can hear it now.
thank you. Item 10B is notice of term expirations on the Panama City Port Authority. The Panama City Port Authority has two positions for a 4-year term that expire on June 25th, 2030. The current members, Harvey Hollingsworth, has been a board member since 2014, and George Reese, board member since 2022, have expressed an interest in retaining their positions on the board. Letters of interest and additional applications received by the city clerk's office are attached.
So we could nominate someone today, or we could kick the can. And I would entertain a motion to appoint Brandon Berg.
A motion to approve? A motion for Brandon?
Do I have a second? I'll second it.
So would that be for Harvey's
Harvey's, for
position?
Harvey's position.
Okay.
We have a motion and a second.
Harvey's position.
Discussion.
Should we,
Actually, you have to pass the gavel if you
No,
have a
for a
second.
second.
Not for a second? Okay. I
But,
said correct.
and correct me if I'm wrong, Harvey would take unanimous consent to be
Correct.
appointed.
Correct, because he has served 8 years.
Harvey would, but George would not, right?
Correct.
Correct.
All right.
The excuse me, Mr. Mayor, but the unanimous consent is a resolution from 1995 or 1996. The resolution that you just approved does not impact that one way or the other.
Could we make the motion be for both the people and, no, we can't do one of them.
You can do them individually.
You could.
Yeah, that's my thought. If you want to do two, we'll do them individually. Discussion about Brandenburg on the Port Board.
I just like, wish we could have a discussion about the applicants before we vote, or do we need to? I don't know.
Did everyone speak to them?
I don't, if we need to, I'm just,
No, I mean, I would say, I think Harvey's been a fantastic asset. I've gotten to travel with him before. He's been an incredible thing. Appreciate his service on the board, and similar to how we had a very similar set of circumstances with Mr. Chris, earlier on. Sometimes there's, on these 8-year terms, people want things to change, and I can understand that. And so I don't think it's off anything of, doing a good job, but it does take unanimous. So.
Any other discussion? Please call the roll.
Commissioner Lucas?
No.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Commissioner Street?
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes?
no.
Mayor Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes 3-2.
Do we want to nominate the next person? George Reese?
I'll nominate Jay Moody.
I'll second.
Discussion.
I think one of this is where you're like, hey, how much change can you have at one time? And so, can I see one of these board members changing at one time and probably not disrupting everything? Yes. But 2, that's a lot of change at one time.
I spoke to Jay today in a bunch of text messages. He's not in a hurry. Jay, he's like, I'm not in a hurry. He's got ADA stuff doing. And so that's why I wasn't, pushing for Jay.
Jay and George are both retired. They're not doing this for, just because they care.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I think that's something to consider. But now,
I know.
now you just voted off the only import-export business on the authority, but, all right.
Yeah, I spoke to Jay today before the TDC meeting, and he was not like, he was super chill about the whole thing, was not pushing hard, and
All 4 of these applicants are qualified, are very good applicants. So I have no concern on anybody. So if we end up in a 3-2 vote, whatever it is, like, I'm not going to be there's no way to make me upset in this aspect. But my concern is obviously switching 2 board members. So
yeah,
that
I'd say
was mine.
I'd like to see Dr. Reese back on the board. I'd like to see potentially Jay in a year or 2 go on there when he has more time.
Yeah, there's 2 more, in 2 years, I think there's another.
We have a term coming up next July, one position.
Everybody that's on it has to get full support too. George is the last one that does it.
Yeah. And that's when I think Jay, I did not get the impression from Jay Moody today that he was, aggressively trying to get on the board right now. He was super chill about the whole thing, and I even mentioned to him, I said, hey, what about in a year discussing this? And he seemed to be willing to discuss it.
Yeah, it's such a unique time. I mean, that's really what it comes to. If Alex was still there and we weren't going through transitional executive, all those things, my take might be completely different, but.
This was kind of why I wanted to have the discussion
That
with everybody up front.
makes sense now.
What we've done now is we've put ourselves in an interesting position.
It makes sense now.
Yeah. Institutional knowledge is very important. Since the beginning of time, institutional knowledge on your left side there. But that can't be your only reason for voting for somebody or not voting for somebody. But that brings the continuity that I was talking about, that I'm concerned about, that obviously Commissioner Street has brought up. But at the same time, I also believe that, this is an engineering and accounting. These are things that we need those types of people in there. And can you do a half of a half?
Every other meeting?
So that's an
Do we have
issue.
a motion on the floor?
We do have a motion and a second. If there's no discussion, please call the roll.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Commissioner Street?
No.
Commissioner Hughes?
The motion was to put Jay
Jay
on the board and
Moody.
take off Dr. Reese, which I'd like to,
Yes.
But you would like to what?
No.
Mayor Branch, or no? Okay. Motion passes 3-2.
I'd like to say thank you to everybody that served and everybody that continues to serve. It's nice to have great applicants, and appreciate your service, Harvey and George.
Yeah, absolutely. All right,
Item-
moving on to
Item 10C.
10C.
All right, it's the notice of term expiration on the Panama City Housing Authority Board. The Panama City Housing Authority has one position for a 4-year term that expires on June 11th, 2030. The current board member does not wish to remain on the board, and the city clerk's office has received one application, which is attached from Mr. Austin Klanjak.
Yep, we can delay this, we can nominate Mr. Klanjak right now.
I'll nominate Austin.
Do I have a second?
Has everybody been able to meet with Austin? I'm just
I have not, but I
curious.
know Austin very well, he's
Yeah.
amazing.
I mean, I know Austin too. I didn't even know he was interested until I saw the application.
Same.
So,
We want to wait for everyone to speak to the person, speak to Austin, or do we want to move forward today?
Yeah, I've not met with him.
one more meeting?
One more meeting? When is this appointment up again?
It is June.
I think we had one.
We have one more meeting.
We have
It's,
to- we have to
It's
nominate the
June
next one.
14th, so our next meeting's June 9th, so you could appoint then.
You want to wait?
Yeah, I haven't spoken. with him.
Withdraw your motion.
We'll wait for
Granger.
Commissioner Lucas to, so we're just moving on, we'll wait till next meeting. Item 11A.
I believe there's a motion and a second on the table.
There was just a motion.
Okay, my apologies.
It failed for lack of a second.
All right. With item 11A, staff recommends the commission approve Martin Theater change order number 3 in the amount of $1,130,256.54, which includes a deductive non-federal change order of $1,257,194.34 and a federal change order of $2,387,450.88. As background information, the City Commission approved a contract with Burke Construction Incorporated in the amount of $32,985,842.00 on June 25th of 2024. Change order number 1 was an increase of $252,775.13 for federal only and was approved July 22nd of 2025. Change order number 2 for the non-federal or the city cost share was an increase of $146,588.20, and the federal scope increased by $252,775.13 for a total change order of $399,363.33, which was approved March 10th of this year. The contract sum or the contract amount after change orders 1 and 2 is $33,666,583.56. With this change order, number 3, the contract sum will be $34,793,840.40, which is an increase of $1.13 million. Due to the change in the federal scope, the non-federal deductive change order includes moving the allowance items from non-federal to federal. Change order number 3 includes additional items for both the Tennessee and the Ritz buildings, lighting, the elevator, the orchestra pit, structural steel, and electrical items. Staff recommends to approve the Martin Theater change order number 3 in the amount of $1,130,256.54 million, which includes a deductive non-federal change order or a savings to the city of $1,257,194.34 and a federal change order of $2,387,450.88. Mr. Mayor?
Yes, before we move a motion, Jared, can you give us like a 1-minute, very broad overview of what, I know we just got a whole lot of numbers, but we hear change order and we start panicking. Give us the broad explanation of what's happening.
Yeah, so this has been in the works for several months now. We have a lot of FEMA money on this project from some maneuvers this commission did late last year. In order to use that, we've appealed to FEMA and asked that they include a lot of items that were in the federal scope of work, the local cost share scope of work or the non-federal scope of work. So most of those items were related to things outside of the building's footprint, because obviously we wouldn't have gone through EHP clearance through that. So those that were not related to that were just left in the local cost share because we wanted to make sure we had enough money to do the project.
Now that we've got the additional FEMA money, we were able to say, hey, FEMA, we'd like to include these things that were originally in our non-federal scope of work that are inside the building. And oh, by the way, add a few things back that we did. We went through the value engineering exercise, like the orchestra pit, some additional lighting, and some other odds and ends to more fully accomplish the vision of this project. I will note that the contract as a total has increased 5.4%. When you look at the federal scope of work, that has increased by 9.49%. But the win here is when you look at the non-federal, or what the city's on the hook for, that has gone down by 49.6%. So instead of a $2.2 million cost share building at this point in time, you're looking at a $1.1 million cost share for a $35 million building. So that's the maneuvers the team was able to make. I will note that Olivia from the Integrity Group, our FEMA consultant on this, has signed off on this. We are in, I believe it's step 7 of 10 steps of approval at the federal level. And she's assured me that that is a rubber stamp process at this point versus an actual decision maker getting involved. All that's already happened. She's very confident in a final approval any day. And it's simply because there's no additional EHP, or that's Environmental Historic Preservation Review, or any additional money that is not already obligated on this grant.
Awesome. You asked for 1 minute.
So,
You didn't set the timer, Dorian,
yeah,
I'm sorry.
so just to give a quick synopsis, and please correct me if I'm wrong here. A quick synopsis of this is that if we pass this change order, we're able to shift some of the financial burden over to the federal side of the funds and not.
Almost half of it.
Yes.
Yeah, so, and
That's correct.
therefore, the citizens of Panama City owe less money for the entire project.
We're getting a better deal.
Okay, that's the gist of it,
Look
right?
at this guy.
Yeah,
You
okay.
do a job in the communication department?
Just want to make sure that everybody kind of understands, because there's a lot of words that are said sometimes, and I think sometimes people lose the core issue, which is, yeah, there's a lot of big numbers on this sheet of paper, but basically what it means is that we're actually going to owe less money.
Yeah, I defer to your summary then, sir.
Yeah, and I think one thing that's important too is, we keep talking about this just being this is all for a 500-seat theater. That's inaccurate. It's actually 3 buildings in one. The theater is one component of 3, just for the record.
And we haven't gotten to how much it costs to rent or how much a ticket. We haven't even selected a management company.
That is correct.
nor-
That
so
bid
we're-
is out
that's-
to.
But I do understand the sentiment, and we want locals to enjoy the theater and all that sort of stuff too. I will entertain a motion to accept.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
The only thing I would add is I still am concerned with the expansion of scope when we haven't picked our operating partner. And so some of this, and I mentioned this to staff, is like, should this stuff be things that we wait on until we pick the operating partner? So that's my concern.
Might I add, at the board's pleasure, to Commissioner Street's point, I've stressed that to both the architect and the contractor to continue to maintain maximum flexibility where we can. Again, the basement of the Ritz, other than 2 bathrooms and an elevator shaft, is completely wide open. And the 3rd floor of the Ritz, other than a small conference room and 2 bathrooms, is wide open as well. So there's maximum flexibility on that side of the building. We've held off on ordering kitchen equipment until as long as we can. Hopefully an operator will be on board before that. But I did want to note to your concern, sir.
And to that point, Commissioner, I feel like we asked for an apple and we're trying to build an orange now. We didn't plan for a kitchen. We planned for a warming kitchen. And we're trying to figure out how to generate revenue off of a restaurant that we didn't plan for. And that's my concern is, now it can work, but it's going to be on somebody's dime, not ours. But that's a little, and some of this goes into that scope. Getting it being open and like Jared said, flexible, okay, that's fine, but does that stop work? Does that slow us down? We definitely, time needs to be on our side too.
Yeah, and I don't know when they're due. When are we supposed to select this
June
operating
1st,
partner?
they're
June
due.
1st.
That's coming up.
It's when it opens.
So I think my question was, why was it needed? Why do we have to do it today when we have we have a selection process that we're about to start.
Well,
I
this
think that
is
was my
two
only-
different items. The change order is not reflective of what the RFP for an operator is. A lot of the stuff is already, like the warming kitchens, all that stuff has already been approved. It's already, like, all that's been sent up to FEMA, all the equipment that we were moving over from different scope, like from one scope to another. I think, Mr. Hughes, your concerns you addressed today in our meeting, you know, that would be more towards an addendum to the RFP.
Correct.
For an operator, not so much the change order piece of it.
And I think some of these don't get done unless we,
Well, there's a timing issue too, like
Right.
we, you know,
And that's, so would we do the orchestra pit, or would we do something different? Would we do those, like, these are all questions I don't know the answer to, and we're so close to having a selection process. That's where I'm like, do you go and reallocate now, or do you wait and then go do it? I don't know exactly where everything is in the construction process, so I don't know. I definitely understand this reduces the city share that's in it. What I don't want to have happen is 3 months from now, we come back and, oh, we did this, now we got to go back and change this, and oh, we got to do that, because now we have an operator that's telling us we should do this rather than this. It's which comes first, chicken or the egg kind of piece, so.
I would say we can work that out with the operator through the contract that we have with the operator. If we zig instead of zagging and they say, well, we wish you'd have zagged, we can work that out with them in the contract.
The only other thing I'll add is every time we make a change order on this specific project, we all get hit over and over and over and over again, which is why I've communicated to the team is like, we need to have one and done and be done. And I don't see that happening. And so,
I was just in a concert hall in Ponte Vedra that just went through a $13 million one building, and it just was nominated for one of the 4 best concert halls in the world up against the Sydney Opera House. And so 3 buildings at 13 is more than what we're doing now. And to your point, I get blamed for City Hall, and I didn't even, I mean,
Yeah.
so.
Why
but
did you
at
do
the same
that?
time, I mean, we're at a point now where it's got to get done, but following good protocols. Is there anything in this change order, Jared, that would come back if I'm an operator, the chosen operator, and go, man, I wish I would have done that? I mean, air conditioner controls.
I mean, for the most part, this is, I mean, when you look at the orchestra pit lift, like that's one that every operator that I've toured through is either part of the RFP process or as a part of the pre-RFP issuance, has been like, thank God you're doing that. There's, you know, the lighting enhancements, that's going to be a nice thing, but the HVAC controls, the additional, really the big bang for your buck here is the furniture that's going from non-federal to federal. The HVAC controls and the orchestra pit lift, those are some of the higher ticket items. Those were going to be, we were on the hook to purchase those one way or the other, with the exception of the orchestra pit lift. That orchestra pit lift will allow us to, an additional functionality for an operator. That'll create a thrust stage when it's at its maximum height. Floor level seating where it would get you to the 488 with 25 removable seats. And then it'll allow for that orchestra pit to actually operate, you know, for concerts and whatnot. So everybody's been excited about that. I think the only hanging chad here is what kind of kitchen equipment is going to be spec'd at the end of the day. And if we need to, and that's maximum lead time, I think the last time I spoke with the contractor was 11 weeks, and we've got well more than 11 weeks before we order that, so.
Okay. We have any other discussion? We have a motion and a second on the table. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Commissioner Street?
no,
Commissioner Hughes?
Yes.
Mayor Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-1.
All right, item 11B is consideration of the vacant property at 2215 East 3rd Street, parcel ID 22545-000-000 and its disposition. As background information, during the May 12, 2026 commission meeting, the commission approved disposing of this city-owned parcel. The small vacant property located at 2215 East 3rd Street is only 0.73 acres and is zoned neighborhood general. Staff understands that no special stipulations were included in the approved motion. Any requested stipulations may be added to the agreement at the Commission's direction. The listing agreement with CBRE, one of the 3 approved real estate firms is enclosed. There were some additional questions raised by a couple of different members of the commission. Just to expand briefly, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, on zoned neighborhood general, this allows cottage courts, multifamily, mixed-use buildings, and some commercial. There is no set density for neighborhood general like our conventional zoning districts. It does have a max impervious surface of 80%. You can have 10,000 square foot building footprints, not exceeding 3 stories. Additional background information regarding the above or the referenced property for this item. The parcel was acquired by the Housing Department through a certificate of title. Department records reflect a total expense of only $100 associated with the property. The Millville Advent Christian Church is nearby and utilizes the parcel for overflow parking during services on an as-needed basis, and they have kept the lawn mowed for that purpose, so there's been no cost to the city. The city did receive an unsolicited offer to purchase the property. At the direction of the City Commission, staff issued a request for proposal back in November of 2024. One proposal was received. However, after review, the purchasing division determined that the submission did not meet the proposal submission requirements or the evaluation and award criteria outlined in the RFP. The company that submitted the initial unsolicited offer did not respond to the RFP. So staff requests that the commission provide direction on the disposition and next steps of this parcel. Mr. Mayor?
Yes, thank you. This came around from our discussion pre-Strong Towns, and we were kind of all over the place. You had some stipulations of what you wanted to see of the size of the units, and I'm all about momentum of the area and getting the comps on the ground, seeing the comps move, and I'm always apprehensive about settling things. Well, I'd love to get the most money for everything, but my worry is always 1031 money, and it sits there, and we have the same thing that's sitting there. And one of the things that they echoed at the Strong Towns event is getting comps, moving things forward. And so I would love to see, it makes me nervous to sell it just free market. That neighborhood needs comps of things being built. We toured a cottage court, a couple of them in Fayetteville, and those are beautiful. Cottage courts are these little clusters of parking and clusters of homes where, a lot like this could be one house, or it could be a series of smaller little missing middle housing that kind of fits the neighborhood, and you put parking in the front and a little garden trail through the neighborhood, or through the parcel, because if you were to put a road down the middle of it, it would take up the whole entire lot. And so for me, I would love to see us either give discounts or something to a person who's willing to move quickly and create comps and maximize density, not height, but density on these units. Or whether discounts rolled into impact fees, paying some of the impact fees for them, but I want to see comps and I want to see some density. I don't want to see one house here, I want to see lots of little units here, and I want to move forward quickly.
You've got comps all over the place there. This is a lot. We're selling a lot, okay? And they're selling between 12 and 25,000 right now. Depends on where they are. But if I may, I've talked a lot about process. But one of the things that was a concern without process is it's a case-by-case basis, okay? And this agreement that's C.D. Richard Ellis, by the way, they're a great firm. They're very good at what they do. But this listing agreement, you don't want, as the city, you don't want to work with that. What I want to do is standardize, use your word, use a standard listing agreement for residential and commercial, and a standard sales contract for all three of those, and those are the ones that we use, because Nevin's office uses them, the real estate community uses them, and we're all on the same page. Because in here, I've got a bunch of changes that I would want to make to this that are, they want a year's time. They want to be able to add on more time to the listing if it goes under contract and falls apart. There's a sliding scale commission. All of these things would all be worked out, and we won't have to have these conversations at all because we have a process. To Alan's point, if you go put 2 or 3 houses on that site, I'll let you do that because they're going that is a single family home site, okay? Where it is a single family home site with a carriage house in the back, potentially.
So the lot next door has a 3-bedroom house in the front,
Yep.
3 1- or 2-bedroom houses right there, and then a 4th house in the same lot right next door to.
You mean on College or on?
On College.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
exact same lot. And so those fit in the neighborhood without disturbing the neighborhood.
But those are separate lots. Those
My
are,
point is, the cumulative size of those lots fit 4 houses there. And so the argument that that's a single-family lot is void based on looking at
okay.
right next door.
So how do you build, a highest and best use, in my opinion, and this is what I do, is no more than 2 units on there. Follow what is the house and a carriage house. Over here, because you can't bust up this lot like you did on the one on College, because you have to put a road in there. Can you?
Did we not? We toured all these little cottage court things.
I love
There were
them.
These clusters of houses, and you put a parking lot in the front, and people.
We
can't
got to
walk
change the
back.
code to do that.
I don't know. Michael, can you go up here? How many units could fit on this lot? It's .73 acres, and
Math test.
Michael Fuller, Director of Development Services. So there's not a set unit per acre required in the zoning district. It regulates intensity like through impervious surface and building height. So as long as you meet the 80% impervious surface, less than 3 stories, then you could get as many of you dwelling units if you
Right, so
wanted
if I
to.
put 4 houses on that lot,
Could you?
if I can, does that create a subdivision?
Yes, you're creating some, well, if you're platting them on their own individual parcels.
Yeah, there's 4 individual parcels.
What if you didn't, what if you rented them all?
Well, it'd be a multifamily property.
this is what we
that
drove
allowed
in.
to use
Sale.
for this?
We're not leasing them.
Somebody could buy this and put rentals on it, and establish comps for duplexes or quadplexes in that area. Yeah.
That's true. But when you do more than 3, we have to make it a subdivision, which requires stormwater and road, right?
If you want to sell them, but this could be.
No, to develop it in the code, not to sell them, to develop it.
No. A cottage court are someone building houses and renting them.
I get
That
that.
is not a subdivision.
But our code, where it says 3 or more, is it lots or buildings?
It's lots.
Okay. All right, see, that's the only way that can happen is somebody to lease it.
Right.
Okay.
And is this 0 lot, or does,
No,
what
there's
else do
setbacks.
they have to make
We have more
consideration
questions, Michael.
for in terms
The building
of roadway and
setbacks,
driveway and parking?
7.5.
the building setbacks are a minimum of 0 in the front and a maximum of 15. On the sides, it's a minimum of 5, and there's no maximum, so 5 foot between buildings.
I thought we were trying to get some affordable housing, some rentals that people can rent. That's what I thought we were doing, maximizing the lot to have as much density as we could. We make property taxes off of buildings, and that's what I'd like to see
But if
here.
you recall, Mayor, this was one of the lots that I said put out at market rate, and I identified 5 more that would fall under the affordable. All in Millville still, and the commission chose this lot, which is, in my opinion, the best residential lot that we had in there that didn't have a lot of hair on it. The others are in a grouping that we paid too much money for at the time, and it's not worth today, but that's okay, we can work out of that. And that one is the 307L, where you could probably get 40 townhouses, and that, you can pick up 40 different, taxation. But I'd like for us to talk about this process, because we can have a conversation about these all day long, but we can also have a conversation about which contract are we going to use, how are we going to do this, what are the terms here. We can set all that up, guys, and everybody follows the same rules every time.
I agree that we
And
should have a
can't-
standard listing
We haven't
agreement.
gotten to that point.
Yeah, we should have a standard listing agreement.
Yeah.
100%.
So I'm hearing, I'm listening here, so a standard listing agreement.
And
is what you're
contracts.
asking,
Yes, sir.
contract, okay. And then you would like to incentivize cottage courts
I'd like
of
to
some
see
sort
density.
here. I
Yeah.
think, and I
Density
think
fits
the
the
only
area.
way really to get density here is the cottage court. I mean, if you just look at it, so. And then the other thing that I would like to do is go ahead and free it of whatever restrictions that there are by reimbursing the housing program prior to listing, so.
Why is that a restriction?
There's no restriction.
There is, if we reimburse how we did like with MLK and 15th, it's maximum, as far as maximum use. If we don't, then we're gonna have to either reimburse the program with whatever proceeds come from it, or follow in LMI, or whatever else might come from
But
that.
it's not restricting us from selling it.
It's not restricting us from selling, it restricts us the use.
Is that a motion?
How does it,
How does that restrict the use? That came from a certified, that came along, certification of title, right?
So when you sell a piece of property that's inside of your housing department, you're going to be restricted either to it being used as XYZ, or you're going to be restricted for putting all of those proceeds back into said restricted program.
And we want to do that.
yeah, it's not a restriction if we just put the money back. At the last meeting, we said that's what we do. We'd encourage affordable housing. You know, we didn't have a concern at that point
And-
about where the money went.
What I'm saying is that go ahead and remove the restrictions and then designate to what program, to what usage, to what those things at the very end, rather than continuing to put it back into the programs that we're not getting the results from. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
No.
What if we kept it in housing and then pushed for affordable housing?
Then you're gonna have, now you're gonna limit how many people can do cottage courts. You're gonna have to find a property owner that can do the LMI qualifications, keep it in rental perpetuity. That's my concern from that standpoint. But
This is an experiment. Let's not change everything at one time. Let's get this experiment. It's the first one out the hopper. And I think our discussion here does take me back to this moves us toward what we'd like to see in a land disposition policy.
I think what we might find is the same thing that we find or we found with MLK and 15th, is by putting the LMI qualifications on the specific buyer and trying to incentivize what type of development there is, you're creating multiple layers. And it's going to become more and more difficult to find that person
Yeah, but
that's
the
actually
problem
going to
at
be able to
MLK and
develop it.
15th is DOT on both roads. It wasn't the project itself. We approved that. The developer could move forward. The sticking point has been the cost of stormwater mitigation.
But only because we removed the restrictions prior to listing and prior to finding that partner.
So we can still meet the intent, by removing it, we can still meet the intent
Yes.
of whatever intent we want. And I guess I just haven't been briefed on that whole situation of the money. But I do want to have a large pool that still lets us hit our intended goal, which density and affordability. And so however we get there.
I've got a way. I have divided them up. Go ahead, Brian, go ahead.
Oh, all right. Well, thank you.
Mr. Granger, everyone.
Yeah. So, what I'm hearing is that Robbie wants a standardized process.
I agree with that.
Hey, welcome to the club. And you're wanting to basically say if whatever we paid for this, that the general fund reimburses the housing department for whatever we paid for it. So, for example, I don't know what we paid for this, but for
$100.
example, how much?
$100.
$100? So, okay. Man, I was gonna use 5,000. All right, so if we paid $100 for this, then the general fund reimburses housing for $100, and then it is free and clear from all other monetary restrictions.
But that $100 is not going to break it. We leave it as is and move forward. I mean,
I don't understand what we're trying to
Okay,
accomplish here,
Right.
so
other
let
than
me
get rid
give
of
you
the money
an
out of housing, which is where it's coming from, and it
You
should go
want to
back.
sell it at full market rate, right? But whatever the market will bear, that's what you want to sell it at.
That was my recommendation
Yeah.
at the last meeting and would be
and
now.
to get to the cottage courts.
And the mayor wants cottage courts.
Right.
I want density.
Density.
Do both.
That fits the neighborhood.
Density. Okay.
We're talking about a $25,000 lot, guys.
So why don't we just put out an RFP to see if there's somebody who wants to build density on this for us?
Because we
And
have,
then as part of that agreement,
They could be 25, they could come and say, I'll pay 25 grand for it.
as part of that agreement, they could offer us quite a bit of money. Or they might say, hey, I'll pay you $100 for it, but I'm willing to share in the profits long term.
We can include restrictions
look.
on the listing agreement with, if you,
I'm gonna,
I'm for moving forward any way, shape, or form, but what I'm communicating, I'm drawing attention to. The more layers that you keep on the specific parcel to make in compliance is the more difficult it is going to be to find a person that's going to develop what you want.
Yeah.
Would we rather have, a cottage court that there's families moving into, that's this new model of potential housing for us to use? Or do we want to sell it for the highest bidder from that perspective? or do we, but every single time, the MLK 15th process worked well by reimbursing the program. We can still choose where we want the money to go after it sells, or whether we subsidize a project, or whether we go and help those things. But if we leave it on there, what we are saying is it's going right back into if it was SHIP, if it was CBDG, if it was whatever the pocket of funding that was used, we're gonna have to trace it all back through accounting, and we're gonna have to get it right back into that same one, which may not be something that's moving us forward. I don't know that.
It's not going to be a problem as you're describing it for this parcel, for our test case. And so to make it as realistic, readily movable, not realistic. I think what we're talking about here is realistic. Let's determine what we want it to be based on what we've said.
I think if we put out an RFP and ask for a developer to build density and just leave that open, then we may get into discussion on how much they want to pay us for it. We may also get into discussion where they don't want to pay us for it. I don't know.
Right.
We don't know.
And I want to
There's a couple of rules, a couple of things in real estate. If we don't set a price, the buyers only have one way to go, it's up, okay? So it automatically you're creating an unfair negotiation. We need to set the rules for the city, how we're gonna participate, so that the buyers and staff know what the rules are. We can't do this 200 times. We'll be here till we die, okay? If you will allow me, I'm almost done with it. I've got all the lots categorized into LMI, market rate, commercial irregular. They're all separate. So then we can talk about, let's have this process on how we're gonna do all the residential. This is where Alan's talking about. You can put the restrictions on those because you need them on that one, but on the others, let them fly. Let's get some money out of it. But without it, we don't have a path to success. But a buyer, they want to know a number. I promise you, they want to know a number.
I think they've heard numbers.
We've already done this. Like, we did this on MLK 15th. What I just proposed and what I just said was the exact same thing that we did on MLK.
Where'd the money go when there's no money been moved yet, right?
The housing program was reimbursed, the properties were free and clear to be able to do grocery store, anything that was needed there. Was no restrictions, anything that was left that. So it gave the developer the maximum flexibility to deliver the product that ultimately we stated that we wanted to, whether it's a cottage court, whether it's a grocery store, whether it's those things. What I'm proposing is no different than the exact process that we used before. And so if we want to go invent a new one, great, put it on a timeline. If we don't get responses, then we come back to it. I'm perfectly fine trying something new. I just don't want us to spin our wheels.
That was a unique situation with the largesse of those properties that we had at MLK, and we knew we wanted the grocery store, we knew what we wanted going into that. Here, we're saying, I think there's consensus about a cottage court, about density. We know what we want going in here. What is restricting what we're talking about being able to do?
You put out in the listing, it says, here's what we're looking for. If you're gonna buy this, here's a restriction, a requirement. And you know, building a year, it's gotta do this, those are requirements. Okay, that's what we're talking about on the court. But taking that money, the idea here on affordable housing is to create money, put it back in so we can do affordable housing again. We've got a lot of lots to get through. We can make some of this money back on these big sales if we choose to. We need a process so that we don't run into this. We'll already have identified this is a cottage court, and we come in here and do the deal.
Scott presented like 37 acres, 27 acres last meeting about them wanting to sell the large property, and you were
Without a plan, that just showed up.
Okay, so bring us the plan. Just bring us the plan.
Well,
And
I was
in the
going to
meantime-
here, but then this got in here.
In
so-
the meantime, though, what I would ask staff to do is to prioritize and bring to us any unsolicited offers for density. That way, if somebody out there is looking at something, I don't know, maybe they're looking at one of the other parcels that we have from last meeting, and they're like, hey, I could do something with that. I don't want to have that process get slowed down because we now have we're still working on a standard. If
So
that
we're
makes
still
sense.
asking
direction
for
from us.
unsolicited offers versus
Yeah, but
putting
specifically on-
together
on
a
density.
playbook that says, hey, this is what we're looking for. And there are those who may be able to build it. We put it out there and saying, this is what we're asking for. These are the parcels. This is how we're going to dispose of it. And then we've put all that out up front. This way we're kicking the can down the road is trying to set some precedents and back into something versus let's put it all up front.
I think an RFP, it does not force us to make any decisions.
Right.
And it's an open sort of, you know, we could do a listing that says, you got to do this, but I just kind of want to say, here's main bullet points of what we're looking for. Give us some great ideas. And I think people have heard numbers of 12 and 25,000 for this
Who's going
one.
to give us ideas?
The free market. I'm saying, hey,
But when you list it, you got to put a price on it.
I'm not a big fan of listing it. I'd rather see an RFP where people can approach us. And maybe the RFP is not the best way to market something.
It's not.
Yeah. Is there a way to do a
It's
listing?
called MLS.
Yeah, I mean, but I don't want to get into a thing where we're picking I mean, 25 grand is.
Robbie, but if the money's just
nothing.
being restricted into housing anyway, why do we care? Like, it should just be
I agree with
focused on just delivering affordable housing. We should just give it away. I mean, from that point, as long as we get
One of
that.
the reasons I care is that once it gets out here, it might be, 1 year, 2 year, 3 years, and then it's flipped into something else. One of the things that we heard at Strong Towns, that I've heard at Florida Housing Coalition Conference for the past 5 years, is that we're not making any more affordable land, and the gap between those who can afford, who work every day, and can afford housing, and I'm not talking about their dream home, I'm talking about shelter, that gap is growing. And we've seen the data in our city, and so it's our charge to look at, are we going to, in 20, 30 years, still have affordable housing in the city of Panama City that people who work every day can afford, or are we just going to sell to the free market right now?
So if we were to put it on the MLS, we're forced to put a price on it. We can't just be like, $1, bring us ideas, here's a link to the RFP, because no one will want to sell it. And so that's my problem with the MLS is it forces us into the frame of, 24, 25 grand. That doesn't, to
But
me,
if everybody else is paying it, you're getting, I mean, the concept of, I want somebody to pay me more money for a vacant lot when everybody else is paying over here smaller. What's going there, what's the incentive for me to pay more when it's going to cost me more and then I got to build, and that person's losing because you're wanting them to pay more. What do they get for that? And everybody else is paying, $2,000, $3,000 less. They might get a cottage court, so they get maybe some density, so maybe that helps, okay? But at the end of the day, we have to decide, do we want a house on this lot? Do we want cottage courts? But we can't be so restrictive that nobody bids on it, nobody tries to buy it, okay? I would like for us to focus on that you can't sell it to anybody but a homeowner, you can't sell it for 5 years. These types of things are the ones that protect Janice's concern. The market
that could be
is,
an RFP.
The problem with those types of constraints is that now you have to have somebody basically watch the
Enforce it.
house. You have to enforce it.
it's called the
incredibly
development order and the,
The only method that I've seen that actually works pretty well is the secondary mortgage, but I believe you can only do that through the SHIP program, right? So
No,
I'm getting
we-
I'm getting a nod on a second mortgage that you never pay off.
it can sit as a silent second with 0% interest that doesn't do anything, and after 15 years, it falls off like a grant.
And in some cases, there have been so much of an equity jump in the value of the house that people have been able to just sidestep that easily. Not many,
Well,
but there has been a couple of cases.
Yeah, if they sold it in the first 5 years.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not happening right now, Commissioner, I can promise you.
Well, I know that. I'm just saying is that the market could change, right?
It can.
So you put all these controls into place and the market does what it wants to do and all your controls are just fall to the wayside because the market will do what it does. You basically have to have somebody watch that house, make sure it never sells for the first 5 years if you put some kind of constraint on it.
Yeah,
Fair.
we've been
And
doing that.
then you have to sue them. So that could be another 10 years, before.
No,
you
because
can enforce it.
in that second mortgage, it will say, and the title company will pick that up, and it will say in there that it has to be either paid off. There's ways to protect on that.
Can I try?
This is what I do, guys. I promise you, I can help here.
Can I try a motion on for us? All right, so, yeah, I'm gonna motion to reimburse the housing program for maximum flexibility. Create a standard listing agreement that they'll bring back to us, and also create an incentive specifically for Cottage Fort program. Some ideas that have been expressed were no impact fees, particularly discount on price, any of those things that actually incentivize building a cottage court.
Okay.
Second.
Discussion.
I did like standing on the rest of your boards, just not that one. But how about this?
Any questions related to the motion on the table? Motion
Yes,
is second
please.
on the table.
6 months worth of, 6 months be the term of the lease, the listing?
Well,
Not even-
they're gonna bring us back a standardized agreement, so I would assume you're gonna speak into what that standardized agreement looks like
Are we gonna
on
talk
our
about that
listing
now,
agreement.
or now, or?
We're gonna bring
I
it
want to see
back.
your draft.
You're going
I would love for you to bring that listing
That's fair,
back.
that's
Okay.
fair, okay. That's fair,
Do
okay.
we, a question for the attorney, do we need to declare this surplus?
You declare it surplus by offering it for sale. I mean, you can always, it's always good practice to declare it surplus, but you then may decide not to sell it. So usually it occurs when you decide you're actually going to accept an offer. But
Josh, was your motion to put the money back in housing or repay them?
That is for us to decide whatever happens. There may not be any
No,
money
he
to go
said
back.
You
in.
had a motion.
started
What
with
was your motion?
Put the money back in housing.
No,
That was your
I
motion.
motion to reimburse the housing program for maximum flexibility. So that means we're gonna reimburse, so we are flexible to do with whatever someone brings us for this specific property.
So
It means I will take $100 out of the general fund, give that to housing, then it's the general fund's parcel, I will sell it. Now, I'm just telling you, that's what it will
Bad
do.
idea.
Yeah.
You're gonna speak into where it goes from that point in time. So there's not going anywhere. It could be restricted to housing after the fact if you want to. It could be on cemeteries, it could be on whatever you want it to be at that point. It's up to this board.
Why is that necessary? Again, it's not the same parcel as the MLK Rec Center. We're not trying to do something differently than what can be done with zoning there. So the reason for not putting it back in the housing department is, I think, what you said earlier, which was you don't want to keep putting money back in the housing department.
It's for maximum flexibility.
For working with developers.
For working with a developer. A developer doesn't have to go through checking the box on every single thing on that. They can look at the parcel from a perspective of this could be anything from that point. It doesn't have to be, a specific LMI criteria. It doesn't have to be all of those things. So doing it this way, we still have the flexibility. We can put the money right back into the housing program. We can put the money someplace else. It is still at the board's pleasure. There's going to have to be a budget amendment, should it be sold, for it to go someplace. Staff can't go spend it. So,
Any other questions?
Do you intend this to become a precedent, that this is how every sale will be made?
Oh, gosh, we can't do this 200 times.
no, I wouldn't say that this is,
Well-
I'd say this is this is our experiment in trying to move one forward.
Well, and look, without an agreed upon process and ideas written down, look at where we are.
Yep.
And that's, I disagree with putting the money in general fund. The housing department got this 30-something years ago. This is the one you were playing ball with the other day. It's been sitting there.
1998.
Yeah, why do we have to do it now when we've had it for 30-something years?
It's good.
In terms of it's the housing money, it came from there, but they didn't buy it. It just got put there, okay? So why does that have restrictions on it when
The
it didn't go
$100
through?
was used.
It didn't go through, that was a recording thing that they do for recording the deed.
Oh, well, and there may be other maintenance costs. There may be, we're saying $100, but it may not be $100.
Yeah, and we can
There could
always-
be,
we're just
there could be
on the side.
grass cutting, there could be whatever. That's for them to go and determine
And
what
they'll
is
give us
actually.
options of what to do with the money, what we can do. If we
But
get offered.
options are not gonna, we don't know what those options are, and you're gonna put the money somewhere outside of where the money's coming from. Why don't we determine what our plan is first before we take the money and move it somewhere
Well,
else?
we
That's
might go right back to
financially
the
a good
same
idea.
spot. I mean, I think what the point is leaving us the flexibility to maybe put the money right back where it came from. But the idea is to open up more doors to more developers than it is, so we may go, when they come, the staff is not going to spend this money, they're going to come back to us and say, what do we do with it? We got offers, do we accept the offers? Now we talk about where does the money go? So that's a whole other discussion. We haven't even got an offer yet. We might not even get an offer, so I don't really want to decide where the hypothetical money's going to go when we don't even have the money yet.
I can sell this lot right now, okay?
Yeah, I'm not up
Here's
for
the
just like a
thing. It's
flash
gonna
sale
sell.
for lots.
Okay, it's gonna sell. We have 200-plus vacant lots. I'm hearing some don't want to put any restrictions on anything. That takes affordability out of the equation.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, it does.
It doesn't.
You gotta start looking at,
How not?
a lot of times, a lot of developers want to know clarity from the city to know that they're going to have their project executed quickly.
Yes.
So when the city says, I want this thing, here's exactly what I want, a lot of times developers say, man, that's awesome, I could execute my money even faster that way. So there's double, you could argue both sides of that coin, so I don't
Which
think.
we have been for meetings now. You know, and it is just boiling down to which direction we want to go. I
Yeah.
think there needs to be parameters. If we want affordable housing and we want to put in some long for the future.
Perpetuity.
Thank you.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You gotta practice that one in the mirror. Yeah.
I'm hoping Robbie shows us the plan for the other properties. I'm up for that, but I'd like to move forward with this one. And if there's any other questions, no?
No.
Please call the roll.
But
Question.
this is if you
Yeah.
vote yes, it's a vote to take the money out of housing and put it in the general fund for $100.
No, no.
Is that right?
Other way around, take the money out of general fund and
Put it into
put it
housing.
into housing to pay housing back for the
We're
parcel.
putting money
For the
into
$100.
housing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
If we get an offer.
For clarification, Commissioner Street, is it also that the final, the determination of what to do with any sales proceeds will be made at a later date?
That is
Correct.
Yes.
Yes. Any other questions about the motion on the table? Please call the roll.
Commissioner Lucas,
No.
Commissioner Granger,
Yes.
Commissioner Street,
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes,
No.
Mayor Branch.
Yes.
Motion passes 3-2.
Delay for dramatics.
Motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Lucas,
Yes.
Commissioner Granger,
Yes.
Commissioner Street,
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes,
Yes.
Mayor Branch.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you for attending.